Sally, so good to see you again. You were
Thank
one of
you.
the first ones that gave me an opportunity to have a podcast and with a guest that has a following and a name. So
Oh,
you hold a very special place in my heart. So
thank
thank you.
you. Thank you.
You have written, I mean, prolific writer, so many books that have impacted so many lives, and I wanted to get into that tribalism, the paradigms of different diets and stuff, kind of address that from the perspective of that is what most people, when things go bad, when they don't feel good, that they go to. Well, we're going to change our diet. We're going to go on a diet, or we're going to look at our food. We're going to read labels. We're going to do these different things, right? But you've never been an advocate per se of one way of doing things, and I want to get your opinion on that. I want to pick your brain. Again, I think maybe my favorite book of yours is when you went and into the ancestral way of so many different groups. It may not
Uh,
have been your most popular one ever, but it
oh,
was
well,
my
Nourishing
favorite.
Diets. It's actually my favorite book. It's my favorite cover.
I love
But
it. I
it's
absolutely love it.
definitely not the one that's, been the big splash. But that was the funnest book to write. I really enjoyed that.
Well, let's
Yeah.
go into that then. Where are those principles? Let's it's
All right.
not.
So, we start with the work of Dr. Weston Price and his travels all over the world and looking at the diets of healthy people. And healthy people, by healthy people, he meant people who had excellent dental health, no cavities, no infection in the mouth, and perfectly straight teeth. And wide faces, wide jaws, and then they were robust and healthy. They had children with ease, and they seemed to be completely immune to the chronic diseases that we have, including cancer. So then we say, well, what kind of diet was this diet that was so good for these people? Well, obviously the diet in the frozen north among the Eskimos was different from the diet in Switzerland, was different from the diet off the coast of Scotland, was different from the diet in the South Seas, was different from the diet in Africa. And because they ate what was there. But there were certain commonalities, and that's what we stress. You build the diet around these principles, and it can contain various types of food. So we have three main principles. One is that there were no processed foods in these diets. And processed foods includes pasteurized milk, includes sugar, includes vegetable oils. Excuse me. So no processed food. So that really means you need to prepare your own food from
Yeah.
real ingredients. Just have one name like beef or eggs or butter, okay, not a big list of ingredients. So no processed food, and there were no vegetarian or vegan diets. All of these diets contained animal foods. In fact, the foods that they prized the most as being healthy and helping you have healthy children were the animal foods. But it's the third characteristic that we put the most emphasis on, and this was the characteristic of nutrient density. These diets were very high in minerals. They were 4 times higher in calcium, phosphorus, iodine, magnesium, zinc, all the minerals, okay? But where they were really high, and this is where we are so different from everybody else, they were really high in the fat-soluble vitamins. That's vitamins A, D, and K. And where do we get the fat-soluble vitamins? Well, we get them from certain seafoods like shellfish. So if you like oysters and shrimp and all those things, that's good because these are very high in these fat-soluble vitamins. Fish eggs, okay. And then we go to the land animals. It's the organ meats like the liver. It's the fats, and especially butter fat. Um, I would consider the milk kind of an organ meat, raw milk. But the fats and the organ meats of the land animals, pasture raised land animals, and eggs. Eggs are definitely a nutrient dense food. So, eggs, butter, liver, raw milk, shellfish, uh, fish eggs if you want to eat them. These are these sacred foods that keep us healthy in the Western world. Okay, so
Yeah.
we don't eat, shark's livers or anything like that. but
Sure.
they did, yeah.
What?
And cod liver oil is a very important part of our diet because it's such a great source of vitamins A and D. And then the vitamin K, which goes with the A and D, is bird liver, bird fat, butter, egg yolks. Again, kind of the same foods.
St- there's two different directions I kind of want to go here, but first, I want to get a little bit of your experience with the influencers and all the big names that have everything inside of their box, right? Their paradigm, because I really can't keep up with who doesn't like each other or whatever, and I've just kind of been shocked that we have so much infighting across
Oh gosh.
health,
Well,
right? Like it blows my mind. So what
I
do you think
I
we have
I
hope?
don't have much to do with the influencers. Every now and then, an influencer will talk about our work, and that's great, and our membership
Yeah.
goes up. But I'm not. I'm just kind of not that kind of person. I will say one of the things that I am most concerned about that's happening with the influencers is this big promotion of taking a lot of vitamin D because we definitely need vitamin D, not nearly as much as they say we do. And when you take a big dose of vitamin D like that, you deplete vitamin A because they're needed together. And vitamin A is your number one protection against cancer, number one protection against toxins. And so once you start taking these big doses of vitamin D, you're going to deplete vitamin A. And then they say, oh, and we'll take vitamin K too with the D. And so that's even worse for the depletion of vitamin A.
Well, I'm glad you brought
And
that
it's
up.
the
Let's
wrong
go
it's
into
the
that.
wrong type of vitamin K too. It's not Dr. Price's X Factor. It's a different form.
Uh, yes, right. So like when we are comparing supplemental vitamin D, and you're actually one of the first ones when we were emailing back and forth, and I had somebody that was recommending a certain product, and you're like, "This is why that is not a good idea." And you made me start questioning, a couple years ago, some of that. But when we look at supplemental vitamin D, that is a fat soluble version that we take in orally, right? It misses all the steps of being sulfated and in a water soluble form, right?
Well, actually, the vitamin D in milk is sulfated, and they don't pick it up when they do tests because they don't see it. But there are actually 1,000 isomers of vitamin D. I have a book at the office, the forms of vitamin D, and it goes more than 1,000. Okay, and when you take D3, you're not getting all these others. And who knows? We have no idea what they do for us or how they're beneficial.
I think that's the point, right? It's like when we have this hubris about us as humans that we can outdo nature or God, and we're going to take vitamin D in a supplement form. We don't even understand what we don't understand, and the downsides of
That's
that, and it's
that's
just
right.
not the same thing.
And we really need to get our nutrients from food. What we need to focus on is how to maximize the nutrients in the food. Well, obviously, it starts with the soil, and it starts with having animals outside eating green grass and in the sunlight. And maybe we maximize by giving them minerals, salt, and so forth. And we, on our farm, we make that free choice. We
Yeah.
figure the animals know better than we do what to eat. And then when it comes to things like grains, we study the work of traditional people. We see that they were very careful in how they prepared grains. It was kind of like a pre-digestion process because we only have one stomach. We're not like a cow with four stomachs. And so we uh, look at the sourdough and the soaking and that kind of thing. And we now know that makes these grains a lot more digestible, less allergenic, and it releases the nutrients. We don't have very strong digestive systems compared to animals, so
Yeah.
we have to use our brains and figure out how to do this before we eat them.
This is kind of twofold, Sally. one, in the ancestral diets across the world, I think it is really interesting that raw milk has had so many different forms, right? Whether
Mm,
that was camel or cow or water buffalo,
yeah,
donkey, right? Horse. And so the
mayor.
second part of that is in Jared Diamond's book Collapse, I believe it was. He's going through the Mongolian culture and that history, and it was really fascinating to me that they relied on meat and mare's milk, horse milk, as they were going, conquering the known
Yeah.
world, and they were getting into this comparison of the European countries that were more grain heavy, right? And there was a difference in that culture. And so, do you care to just go into kind of the differences in the milks and see if there's anything that stands out with that in the different species that are providing milk, and then the comparison between the cultures that did have more of a grain, maybe they weren't doing all the traditional things that you're talking about as far as preparation, and then that Mongolian clash.
Well, the Mongols were very, very strong, and they were warriors, and they, trained to be warriors. And their food went with them, the milk and the meat. And I can guarantee you they were drinking the blood too and eating the organs. Those are the
Yeah.
most nutritious parts. But he studied the Swiss people in the Alps, and they drank milk. They ate meat. They ate the organ meats. They ate the blood. But they also had grains, and the grains were sourdough type of grain, long fermented bread, had cheese, cream, butter, lots of butter. And they were beautiful, tall, healthy people, and they just weren't warlike. Okay, so I don't know how they would have done against the Mongols, but they were. You can have grain. I think the point is your diet does not have to exclude any food group. You can have grains in your diet. I wouldn't overdo, but I have soaked oatmeal a couple times a week. I eat sourdough bread. I make pancakes with soaked flour. So we like to say there's no real renunciation in our diet. It's just careful preparation.
hmm The so I have a farmer's market, and so the very involved in the whole local food system, right? And just trying to really support regenerative agriculture and resiliency and all of those things. I get to see how the system has some really important strengths and then weaknesses just based off of current day, right?
Mhm.
One example is locally we have the Ralstons, and that they are a rice group. They've got all the land, the mill, all this stuff, but they've recently gone into the regenified, certified aspect. And with that, there's a lot of testing that comes in. And so, like, some of their rice has gone down to zero arsenic. It's gone up in protein by almost double. That is
Wow.
really cool based off the practices because you'd hit on soil earlier, right? And so, like, the big thing is having animal impact and building the soil and not
Yeah.
having the inputs, the chemicals, the pesticides, herbicides. So, what aspect of that are we missing by just the food and the nutrient density of, they didn't have a way of messing it up, so to speak, right? So like this is just kind of, it was what it was. So why is that so hard to understand for us now in 2025?
There's no money in it, I guess. I mean, the way this is going to happen is just the example you gave. This company, possibly with pressure from the consumers, possibly just thinking they can make more money this way, or possibly just out of the goodness of their hearts, is looking at how to maximize the nutrients in their rice. Okay, and that's wonderful. And this has to happen all over the country, all over the planet, little by little. People start to think this way, and they start to appreciate the benefits of maximizing the nutrients, minimizing the toxins in all the foods that we eat.
It's so much and so overwhelming. For me, coming into this, it was all about cancer, right? I looked at my son's oncologist. I said, "Hey, what are we feeding? Like, what this is how I got into nutrition because the answer was it doesn't matter. And at the same time, seeing all kinds of babies in a pediatric oncology ward getting ice cream and sodas and all this
Yeah,
stuff, and it's just mind
potato
blowing, right?
chips. Yeah, they don't give any advice. I actually wrote a blog on this called "The Forgotten Research of Dr. Clement Ip, IP." That was his name, Dr. Ip, and he was looking. It was a very interesting study he did. So he was trying to figure out what would be the best kind of fat to eat if you had cancer. Okay. So he would take mice, he would either inject them with cancer cells or give them a carcinogen, and they developed either breast or prostate cancer. When he gave them polyunsaturated oils, the cancers grew and spread all the time. When he gave them saturated fats, the cancers did not grow and did not spread. When he gave them conjugated linoleic acid, the cancers went away. Now, what is conjugated linoleic acid? It is a fat that you find only in the fats of grass fed ruminant animals. In fact, he said, well, why don't we add this conjugated linoleic acid to margarine or something? But they never got that far, thank goodness. But I look at these cancer centers, Jude's and St. Jude's and all this, and they're torturing children with chemotherapy, and they are not telling them that if they eat conjugated linoleic acid in grass-fed butter or egg yolks, uh, their children's cancers will go away. It's sickening. It's really sickening.
It, it, the fact that nutrition doesn't get more emphasis in the cancer approach really it is disheartening.
Mm.
There's a whole electromagnetic aspect of all this too, and it goes
Yes,
into the
there
food,
definitely is. Yes.
and that one's really hard to take that next step. So like I don't know what the relationship is with say Jack Cruz, but Jack has made a massive impact on my life, trying
Mhm.
to understand things, and I think he is brilliant. But what do you think is the disconnect between taking that big of a step on understanding? Is it that it's just too deep, or is it that we don't need to go that deep? Is it
Or
just
too hard, or people don't want to believe it. But yes, there's things you can do that definitely minimize your cancer risk. And one is to get the Wi Fi out of your house and out of your office and out of your bedroom. Get everything wired. It's very easy to do. An electrician can do it for you. And then you plug in your computer, you turn off the modem, you turn off the Wi Fi, so you're not being bathed in that all the time. Now, that's not going to eliminate everything. You're still going
sure,
to have a cell tower
sure.
for your telephone, but it will help. And it's also very helpful if you can turn off the electricity in your bedrooms at night when you sleep. Don't use a baby monitor. That's an easy one. The baby monitors it's a huge electromagnetic field that they produce. You know, limit your kids' exposure. They certainly shouldn't have a cell phone until they're teenagers, and then they should be taught to talk like this, not at their ear. No Fizbits. I mean, who
Mm-mm.
thinks of all
Yeah.
these things? So yeah, you definitely want to minimize their exposure. But I'll tell you, I'm convinced that a good diet does protect to a certain extent.
Yeah, no, it does matter, and this is kind of what I was getting back with. Maybe influencer wasn't the best term. Maybe I should have just said guru, because everybody has kind of their perspective on their way of looking at things and applying things, and so I've just been shocked about how siloed academia is for one, and how much egos play into learning and trying to help people. I've just been, for whatever reason, right or wrong, I'm just saying I've just been shocked by that, and so
Typically, in a family, it's the mother who's concerned about the EMF, and the father, whose job depends on it, right? Doesn't want to address this problem.
Yes, no, or maybe we're in medicine. Like I get all kinds of doctors that ask me questions about health and stuff, but on the same token, the solutions go against how they make their house payment, right? Like so, it's really interesting in so many of these dynamics. But the nutrition does matter. The nutrition matters a lot. So getting back to that, I want to go through the regulations that I am seeing that are just making me want to beat my head in the wall. So we got in trouble for selling raw milk for pet consumption only. Okay, the Arkansas Health Department came in. We got turned in. Some do-gooder went out and told on us. Sent them an email that I was able to read. And they came in and said you can't do that. And like, I feel like we probably can, but the to go through that process, it is illegal in Arkansas to retail raw milk. Okay, so they can only be sourced directly from the dairy. A
Hmm.
consumer has to source directly from the dairy. So basically, nothing outside of that is allowed. Okay, so we got legislative
Can the farmer deliver the raw milk?
that just got passed yesterday, and it's
Oh,
going to the governor's desk to be signed. Hopefully Sarah can get that signed, and we're good. But it doesn't open up the most consumers, right? It's going to help. That's going to be huge. It's going to help. But there's so much. What I'm more interested in asking you is because
well,
you've
I
seen
think
this on a
you would have
national
to,
scale.
you a pet milk, raw pet milk sales are legal everywhere. You just have to get a permit, and that's usually through the Department of Agriculture, not through the health department. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what we do. We sell pet milk.
yeah. And that's Mark and I went deep into that, and Mark on our behalf was getting things done with the Arkansas Health Department and going that route. And that was when bird flu came in and derailed everything. That we can get into that a little bit more too. But what do you think the reason for criminalizing, making it difficult, attacking the raw milk? What is really the
The
crux
real
of
reason.
that issue?
The real reason is that milk is controlled by about four big companies in this country, and what they pay the farmer is a pittance. It's the same price the farmers got in World War II, and they don't want. But the farmer, if he can sell raw milk, he can get. So he's getting about $1.45 right now per gallon. If he can sell raw milk for anywhere from $5 to $25 a gallon for a lot more, and they don't want the farmer to have this option because then they have to compete with that price and they have to pay all the farmers more. That's really where this is coming from. It's about the pricing of the milk.
Because the raw isn't reliant on a centralized model either, right? Because the
Right, right. But it's mainly because they don't want to have to pay the farmers more. If the farmer has the option to sell raw milk, he says, "Oh, screw this.
yeah.
I'm going to sell my milk for $10 a gallon or whatever." And they can't compete with that. The only way they can make money is to have extremely low prices for the farmer.
And so uh, another aspect of of all of this is I don't understand why we're so scared of raw milk. In 2025, when we can test if it's a healthy animal, it is kept refrigerated, if it's cold, if it's stored
Yeah.
properly, like what is the problem?
Well, there is no problem. And more people are realizing that there's no problem. In the last few years, we've had this tremendous campaign against raw milk in California, and sales have gone up 65%. So people aren't believing it anymore. They don't believe the government anymore. I mean, the government and the industry have spent years demonizing raw milk and telling you how wonderful pasteurization is. But people don't believe it anymore. Pasteurized milk makes them sick, makes their children have a tummy ache, gives them
Hmm.
allergies, or even worse, anaphylactic shock, which can be deadly. Um, and they never tell you that. They just tell you how deadly raw milk can be, and this is ridiculous. I mean, look how much raw milk is being sold in this country. People aren't getting sick. It's just crazy. Yeah.
So let's go into that little thing that I kind of set pushed back a little bit before we started recording is bird flu. I want your honest feedback on that because
Well, bird
as
flu
we've
doesn't exist. There's no bird flu virus. And the tests that they use to say they found the bird flu virus are completely bogus. They can get whatever result they want from this test. My personal theory is that what's making these birds sick is hydrogen sulfide in the chicken houses, but they don't test for that. You know, a meter to test for hydrogen sulfide costs $100, and every inspector should be uh, required. First thing that goes in is the test. You know, these chicken houses, grown men have to wear hazmat suits in these chicken houses, and then when the chickens get sick, you blame it on a virus. I mean, really? So I don't think there's any virus. The tests are completely bogus, and we know from insider talk that this is being done for two reasons. One, to make eggs very expensive or non-existent, so people have to give their children cereal, or two, to go after raw milk. And this idea that you can get bird flu from drinking raw milk is just ridiculous. Nobody ever has, and it's just all made up, all made up.
so let's just go into that. Why? I mean, it seems obvious to me at this point, but I'm asking just to get your take on it. Is why are we attacking two of the most natural and
Yes.
healthy foods that are available in raw milk, raw dairy, and eggs?
And the foods they don't want us to eat are beef, raw milk, and eggs. Those are the three most nutritious foods in the American diet. And they keep us healthy. And people are going back to these foods, and that's what they don't want. Okay, the Marxists who run the deep state and who run the Department of Agriculture, because the Department of Agriculture is a Marxist organization. The industrialization of agriculture, that's Karl Marx, 100%. They don't want us to be healthy. There's a lot more money to be made from unhealthy people than healthy people.
It's just disgusting. Like that whole concept. What you just said there just makes my blood boil because that seems so crazy for the person that is not question anything, right? But it is obvious. It's blatantly obvious. We
When
have
you look into
farmers,
it, it becomes obvious, but it's not obvious to most people. Most people can't believe that that level of evil exists,
but it does.
and but it does. And once we realize that, then we can proceed and behave accordingly, very
Yeah.
carefully. Yeah, to watch our backsides.
That's a legitimate thing. So we have had to cancer again is my world, right? We've gone through this. So in the research that says things like fenbendazole and ivermectin, they have efficacy with cancer, right? We have experts, it's a network. I am just so grateful for the network I have access to, and you're in that. But they are working 100%. Like there's no ifs, ands, but so often we have to be behind a curtain in having a conversation about it, or people are legitimately scared that they are going to either get prosecuted or killed.
Yeah.
I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I
Well,
mean, it's mind blowing.
we have to be brave. The Bible says, "Fear not," 365 times in the Bible. It's one for every day of the year. We just not. You can't be afraid. You move on. You do what you're called to do, and fear not.
That's where I am on this. It's like I know I got babies to take care of and everything, but we can't sit back and do nothing when
Yeah,
the last couple years should be eye opening for everybody,
for everybody,
absolutely
and they
everybody.
have been. They have been. A lot of people are seeing the light. Hardly anyone's taking the fourth booster or whatever it is. Vaccination rates are way down, thank goodness. I think the number of people drinking raw milk has doubled in the last 5 years.
Thank God.
So, people are waking up.
Well, so I want to. You brought up vaccinations. You were the first one that I think I actually talked about with Lander having my oldest that ended up diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, a vaccine reaction. I think that was the first time publicly I talked about it, was in our first interview. But
Oh, so
what,
this happened after a vaccine.
yeah, yeah. It wasn't immediate, right? Like there was, I think it's a combination, but I'm starting to understand why. And so from a text message I got now with a world renowned virologist that I think everybody would know the name if I said it, SV40 has been in every vaccine. This is what I was told
Oh, yeah.
verbatim since 1953.
Well, there's lots of other things in vaccines that can give you cancer. Yeah,
Fair, fair.
yeah.
But, this
Formaldehyde. Okay.
a, a known
Aluminum.
oncovirus being in
Yeah.
every vaccine that every one of us have gotten, right? Every single one of us, as for I'm saying that in general terms for Americans, uh, should terrify and infuriate everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I only had one vaccine in my life, so lucky in that respect. Yeah.
Good. I just didn't know. So like we're working on a project that's essentially cancer now what, okay? It's like you get this terrible news, whether it's you or your a child, a loved one, a partner, whatever, cancer now what. And so as we lay out this, I feel like nutrition is the easiest first step for most people. I
Yes.
think that's the
Yeah.
first thing a lot of people are going to ask. And so let's just go through that with your experience. We know there's things we have to do. There's supplements and practices, modalities that are just going to be important based on that whole deep, dark. There's things in the bioweapon that we have had been exposed to. And so nutrition, what's your cancer now what? Uh, what's your recommendation? What's your talk? How do we start
Well,
there?
I would get on raw milk from pastured cows. I would get on a really good quality butter from pastured cows. Eat lots of eggs from pastured chickens. I would take cod liver oil. It's our diet. I would start making chicken broth. That's highly detoxifying, very good for the cancer patient. I would eat fermented foods like sauerkraut, get the good gut flora. I would certainly stop vaccinating. I'd stop taking any pharmaceutical drugs and just get on the good diet.
Well, let's talk about the broth thing. I like, and I had just looked, and I have your nourishing broths right here. Um, because that's really fascinating component to all this for me. So Stephanie Seneff has hypothesized, and I think she's right, that glyphosate displaces glycine in proteins,
Yes,
right, as the
yes,
amino acid.
right.
And so the bone broth actually provides it, right? Like we get glycine through the
And you
collagen.
want to be making it out of organic or pastured chicken bones, okay?
Yeah.
But yes, there's the main component of broth is glycine. Broth is like melted collagen, so it builds your own collagen. But glycine is very detoxifying. Your body makes, um, can't think of it right now, but detoxifying chemicals out of glycine, and it detoxifies the liver. So yeah, chicken soup for the soul, chicken soup for the body.
Yeah, broth is huge. I am really glad you brought that up. There's just so much to all that, and then it's easier to get a supplement, but it's just like the vitamin D conversation. Supplemental does not take the place of a natural. It's never
Yeah.
going to.
And it's really all part of a lifestyle where you're going to be cooking broth. Somebody in the family is going to be making broth. It's not hard. You need a slow cooker. You throw those carcasses in there, and you can get some feet from the local farmer. But it's not hard to make broth.
It's not hard.
And
It's
it
not
just
hard.
becomes part of your weekly routine.
Raw milk, broth, and just eating a local, seasonal, natural
Yeah.
diet. It's really
Yeah.
just not that hard.
Yeah.
It's just not. We have made it hard because we want convenience, and we
Yes.
we
We don't want to spend the time on it or don't want to learn how to do it.
yeah. So what's next for y'all? What's Weston A. Price working on? What's new for you? You doing any more books? Tell us all
Uh,
the details.
I'm always doing a book, but We are getting ready for our 25th annual conference, 2025 25th conference. We'll be in Salt Lake City, October 17th through 19th. And we're really excited about our speakers this year. Mark and Sam Bailey are coming from New Zealand. These are the people who've pointed out the fallacy of the virus argument. And we Nina Teicholz, who's been leading the band against the dietary guidelines. Lee Merritt, wonderful speaker. We have many, many others. We have a speaker on vitamin D who's going to be warning us against taking supplements.
Awesome.
And so we have a great conference coming up. The other thing we're doing this year is we have a big membership drive. We want to get up to 25,000 members. And we ask all our podcast hosts and everything to promote membership for us. It's $40. It's the same price it was when we started, and members get a journal 4 times a year. People love the journal.
I'm a member
And
and I love the journal.
yeah, and all of our literature and everything. So yeah, those are the 2 big things we're working on right now.
All right. What's the next book, or what book do we need?
Oh, I'm keeping it a secret for a little while.
All right. I love it. I love it. Well, Sally, thank you. I think that there's so much, and just the disconnect between modern lifestyle to everything that you've broke up in your books is
And
just eye-opening.
modern lifestyle is great. I mean, there's a lot of things about our lifestyle that are truly good. One is that we have salt. Getting enough salt was really a problem in the old days, and people could cut off your salt, and then you were their slaves basically. The automobile has replaced the horse. Can you imagine living in a city where all of the transportation is done by horses?
No, that'd
When
be
cities
brutal.
were just mountains of manure.
Yeah. No, you're
um, the internet. I mean, I love the internet. I don't have Wi-Fi. It's all plugged in. So, I mean, all of these things are benefits and blessings, and just need to be used appropriately.
amen.
Even
Amen.
even raw milk, we couldn't get raw milk to people 30 years ago. The internet has made this possible to find the raw milk, to find the farms.
And do y'all have a raw milk finder within
Yes.
Weston A Price?
So we have a secondary website. Our main website is westonaprice.org, but then we have realmilk.com, and you can go put your zip code in and find where the raw milk is near you.
That's important. So before we jump off here, there's a huge difference in dairies, like massive, right? And I think that's important. So what do we need to look for in dairies? Because I am telling you, I have had 8 different dairies this year, right? And it's only February as we're recording that.
Raw
And
dairies,
there
you mean?
is, do
Raw
what?
dairies. You mean
Raw
raw dairies?
dairies. Yes, yes, raw dairies. 100% raw dairies. And there is an astronomical difference between them.
Yeah.
2 just stand out that are head and shoulders above everybody else. So what do we need to look for?
Well,
What do you look
cleanliness
for?
has a lot to do with it, a lot to do with the taste of the milk and how long the milk lasts. So, wherever you're buying raw milk, I would go in and inspect the dairy. Do they wash their parlor down every day? A lot of dairies don't do that. Do they test their milk for coliform? What does it all look like? So, I would definitely inspect any dairy that I got the milk from. And the next question is, are these cows out on grass? Well, they're not right now because it's so cold, but what are they getting fed? Are they good quality hay? What good quality grain? Are they getting soy? That's another big question. You definitely don't want cows eating soy and then drinking their milk.
I I have just been in shock that there's such a difference in everything from taste to shelf life to everything. It's
Yes,
just there.
yes.
So I almost kind of give credit to some of the critiques of raw milk, right? Because it's not a standard. This is all equal thing, right? But it's still Goodness, it's still just a night and day difference. Ear infections are one of the things I think that just absolutely tear up parents, right? Because our babies have those issues, and I think absolutely unequivocally in my experience it's the garbage milk and
Yes,
formulas that lead to them,
yes,
and I've not
absolutely.
seen it
Very
in
much
any of my
associated with
kids.
pasteurized milk. Yeah.
So, what do you have a favorite home remedy by chance? Because Barbara O'Neill happened to have a video about an onion, and I'll be danged if it didn't work. It saved my life personally, right? I was doing a bunch of cottage cheese. I got all excited, and the
Well,
onion worked. So, do you have
coconut
something?
oil is a good home remedy. It's very good prebiotic for the gut. It's good on rashes, and you can drink. In fact, this is what I'm drinking right now is coconut oil melted in hot water. And much better for you than coffee, and does the same thing and wakes you up. But this would be a very good drink for a sick child.
Okay, hot water and coconut oil.
Yeah. Hmm.
Too cool. All right. Well, Sally, thank you so much. We'll do all the tags and make sure
Okay.
that
Yes, and
everybody
we'll
has you.
post
But
this. Thank you so much for having me, and stay warm. Pretty cold here.